How many people here struggle with drawing something realistic? Today I'm going to help fix that and hopefully have you become a more confident artist when it comes to drawing any item. I'm going to be giving you 11 simple steps to draw an apple that you can use on any other item. You will need your simple pencil with an eraser. This pencil that I will be using does not have an eraser, so I have a mechanical pencil right here to act as the eraser, but you will be recommended to use a number 2 pencil, not a mechanical pencil for the actual drawing itself. And you will also be needing a notebook. I personally have like a sketching notebook. If you do not have that, a normal lined piece of paper will work, or just normal paper will work as well. So this is my sketchbook. Step 1, you'll be sketching your apple. Ways to do this are very common by creating different shapes to create one big outcome. So I just started with 4 simple circles. By connecting these circles, they don't have to be perfect circles either. By connecting them though, you will be able to create the general shape of an apple pretty simply without having to really look at an image of an apple or anything, since it's a relatively common shape to know what it looks like. So as you do that, you can see my shape of 4 little circles turned into a simple apple. Now when it comes to steps like 2 through 5, I previously did on another page. That way it would save time. So step 2 would be to sketch the edge of your table. So as you can see in this drawing, I have the edge of the table right here. Now step 3 is to determine where your light source is coming from, which I have the light source coming up in the corner, and I drew simple light rays that will create a general guideline for steps 4 and 5. Step 4 would be to draw the cast shadow on the table, which is this general oval shape. It doesn't have to be perfect at all, because later we will be shading it in. And then step 5 is to determine where the line of the sunlight and the shadow begins. So up here is obviously where the sunlight is hitting the apple, and underneath will be the shadow. This is creating your core shadow right here. Now for steps 6 through 9, that's where the shading actually comes into play. We're going to be shading in the core shadow, and you'll be starting over here in the top right hand corner, and you'll be shading this side of the apple very dark. Very, very dark up here, and you will be slowly bringing it down into a lighter shade of gray. And as you keep doing this, you want to make that upper corner very dark, but not the darkest point of your apple, because that is when step 7 comes in, and you're going to be creating the shadow where the table meets the apple. So down here is going to be the darkest part of your actual apple as far as the shading comes into play. And you'll be working yours from dark to light going upwards. This one you'll be going dark to light going to this direction. As you can see, I drew little arrows, that way you can see that. And step 8 is shading in the cast shadow. Really underneath the apple is where the darkest part of the cast shadow will be, and you'll be going from left to right as far as going from dark to light. So really underneath the apple will be very dark as well, and then you'll be lightening up as you go along. Whenever you are going to be shading, you want to focus on pressure on your pencil. So when you are going dark with the pencil, you want to hold it at an angle to the paper, like so. You don't want to be directly pointing at it like as if you're writing, because then that'll create jagged lines in your drawing, which you do not want at all. Now those steps take a little bit of time to work on, and it can take you very long, it can take you very short, depending on how well you are of a drawer. But I think practicing your shadowing and shading beforehand is very smart to do before going in straight with drawing. So I did off camera those steps, and my apple then turned out to look like this. Now, it might not look great over camera, but in person it looks a lot more realistic than just a simple drawing. So steps 10 and 11 will be to blend from all the way to the top of the apple, and this will be your lightest part of the apple. So I'm going to do that now. As I work on it, I want to be pressing very, very lightly and focusing on this middle part, because step 11 is you want to make sure you find your highlights of the apple. So one is right here and the other one will be up here in the corner. And as you find these highlights, you want to make them very, very light. They're going to be the lightest part of the actual apple itself. And you can even go in with an eraser, which is recommended, where you can erase and make it as light as possible. If you need to like go back over it, that is smart. You really want this part to be perfect. That way it can bring it in the roundness. The actual roundness of the shape will come to life whenever you create this piece. And as you do that, you can go back in up here in the corner again, maybe darken it up just slightly. That way you can figure out, the darker it is around the edges, the smarter it is, because it'll make it look more of a rounder shape than exactly like a box, because apples are not boxy, they're very round. And with that being said, those are your simple steps to create an apple. And as you can see, like, smudging does come along because I did shade very dark in here, so you could just go back in with your eraser and erase that area and it will be good as new, and following the guidelines of where you want everything to be. You can go in, erase that right along the apple, and then I'm going to re-sketch my line here of where my table is, and there you go. You have a perfectly drawn apple. And you want to also shade in your stem. Again, this is another thing that if you can shade, that would be very smart, because you want the outside edge pointing to the sun lighter than the other side to show that the sunlight is still coming in. So that's a bad example as far as that goes. Here, I'll see if I can fix it up a little bit. Again, taking in that eraser to lighten up that area. And there you go. That looks a little bit better. And again, here comes the smudge marks, because my hand is quite filled with pencil. So you just take your eraser, erase those, and then you are left with a perfectly drawn and shaded in apple that gives a realistic look that it's sitting on the table and everything. Hope you enjoyed watching and learning how to draw an apple, and you can take these steps into your future drawings.